Do you have a name? What's it called?
Yeah, it's called Kohatuto Green Dollar.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started it about 5 years ago, which was just when we came here. This community was kind of waiting for someone who had they kind of kept talking about it, but nobody had actually organised it.
Yeah.
So when we came, I started the scheme, and we started smallish. We had everybody within this eco-village joined. Some people from Ormita were in the first wave of people who joined. And then people who we were linked closely with out in the broader community. Kaiwaka's interested in them, and there's a lot of people doing the kind of organic, self-reliance, alternative lifestyle thing. So we probably started with about 15 households joined, and basically...
it was quite linked in the green market at that point as well.
Yeah, the green market was really kind of buzzing in Mangawai, and some of the stallholders in that joined it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And basically what I did was I looked around at different schemes, looked at different people's paperwork and what have you, and just used somebody else's, because I'm not going to reinvent the scheme. And then, so basically people join, and they put the details of what they want to buy and sell in the directory. The directory gets updated every few months or so.
And where's the directory on the internet?
So the directory's it's a hard copy document, but mostly everything's emailed now. Hardly anybody doesn't have email, so mostly it's just an email copy that people get. And people trade, and every 2 months the transactions come into me. I just did this is way before the Let's scheme had their computer thing that Christoph developed, so I just did an Excel spreadsheet, and all the transactions go on there, and every 2 months people get their new balance. And it's really simple, and it works really well. So with things like Miguel's talk, and I got an email from Christoph this morning actually that I will respond to, but I kind of feel a bit like it's not broken, so why would I need to put time in fixing it? It's working really well. It is quite low key. It started off as a way of people supporting each other and building community, and building this eco-village's links with the broader community, and allowing people to trade surplus and things. It's grown now. There's probably 35 households are members, and I think we're on the cusp of it umbrellaing out a bit more, because the transition town thing's bringing people in.
So what works about it? What
works
really
about
well?
Well, I think the turnover is actually really significant.
The turnover's pretty significant. I mean, it's we're turning over probably about $6,000 worth of stuff's being traded every month.
Yes, that's
pretty good.
That's pretty good. Are you doing services as well? Are there services in there as well?
Yes, all kinds.
So there's probably 3 groupings. I mean, there's produce, like products of whatever kind. There's healthcare stuff, because there's a lot of alternative healers around here. So there's the healthcare group, and then there's time. So, but I suppose there's also other services, like, you know, there is a guy who does electrical stuff and what have you as well. But a lot of it, people are trading their time. You know, it's like, so you've got a big job you need doing. I think people think that green dollar schemes is just an alternative way, and it's exactly the same as money, and it's not. It's better than the national currency in a whole number of ways. And the main thing is that the wealth that you generate stays within this community, so it doesn't go off to distant shareholders. If we generate $10,000 worth of wealth within our local community, it stays in our local community, and that wealth circulates around. Whereas if you go and buy your carrots at Pack and Save, I don't know who the hell gets the money, but it's not anybody local, you know. So it doesn't siphon money out. And the other thing is that the people find hard to get their head around is that negative and positive balance thing. So there's no disincentive to having a negative balance. You have to have negative balances for the scheme to work, because they all start at 0. So if I sell you something for $10, then you've got $10 credit and I've got $10 debit, and both are as important in the scheme. And what's actually really important is that people continue to trade. And so people do get hung up about having a negative balance, and the people say, "Oh, I've got enough green dollars, I can't afford them." And I go, "Hey, whenever there's a transaction, the green dollars are created. They're not printed, but it's just that the trading creates that wealth." And the negative balances are only a problem if somebody has a massive, just keeps on accruing a negative balance, keeps on taking and never gives.
So do you have a rule
as
around
long as
that?
there's trading. So we do have some rules around it. One of the rules is that when people first start, that there's a kind of limit to how far in the negative they can go. But we don't have an absolute blanket, you can't have any more than this amount of debit. And the reason for that is it depends how much you're trading, is how significant it is. So if you've got somebody who never buys anything, never sells anything, then a $500 debit is quite significant. But if you've got somebody who trades $1,000 each way every few months, a $500 debit doesn't actually matter that much, because if they stopped buying, it would only take them a couple of weeks to. So as the person who administrates it, I just kind of keep an eye on the balances, and if there's balances that are getting into difficulty because of the debit, then we look at that. But interestingly enough, it's not the debits that are the problem, it's the positive balances that are the problem. So if you've got somebody who has something in particular that people want and they end up accruing all these green dollars, then the problem can be, what can they sell them on? You know, what can they spend them on? And so that's actually more of a management headache than the negatives.
So how do you get around that? Because that...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because do people perceive, does there gain jealousy then? You know what I mean? All those human emotions.
But I guess that's kind of where interest came from after a while.
Yeah,
you know, that people accumulated these sums, and then they, well, I'll lend these sums out and charge people for them or something. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. But in practice,
people pretty cool about that?
In practice with the scheme, I've not been aware of any kind of. I've not been aware of niggles or hassles or resentments or any of that stuff because of it. Sometimes people get a bit, a little bit concerned if there's a big negative balance. And what one set of people have had to do is they've got a big positive balance, and they've had to stop selling for a while to try and get it down. So they're actually trying to reduce their balance. The other problem we have is that there's a finite group of people in the scheme, obviously, and sometimes what will happen is people who've got big balances will say, right, what I need is someone to come and do a fairly big task for me, like say build a shed or whatever, and it's just not possible because everybody's really busy. So we suggested like a working bee scheme, like a green dollar working bee. So they'll say, okay, I've got this big job we need to do, and we need all the rag work pulling from all of our paddocks. This is the day, come, and you might get 6 people go and spend a day when you wouldn't have got one person going and spending 6 days.
Right.
And that works. But that's also got other knock-on positives because it's people working together and building the networks, and so that's good.
Well, it's more fun, isn't it, to have
Yes.
6 people than to be with yourself pulling out ragwort.
Exactly.
Sounds a nightmare.
It's really important, those points, because those are some of the fears that I've kind of heard about, as people, that it's replicating a standard system where some people get rich and some people aren't as rich, and there's still, and I think as we get back to that common denominator, which is the paradigm shift, shifting your head around, this is not about an us and them.
It's about a share. It's about a sharing, and it's
looking at the bigger picture as opposed to.
Yeah, it's about people. I mean, one of the reasons that there was a good turnout for Green Dollar Working Bee is because there was a significant number of people who could appreciate that the welfare of the scheme, and therefore the welfare of the whole community, actually depended on these people having something to spend their money on, and also the fact that they got a big credit was because they were offering a service that was really it was really attractive. So there's another thing that sits there then is that actually that's a message to people locally that, well, there's actually a gap in the market there, and if anybody else could step into that and start offering that service, that also would spread it too. So I mean it would be really important to make sure that there wasn't, that there wasn't a move to say, oh well, then you could spread that out by lending it or whatever. That there are some principles about the scheme that limit it, and so then you've got to get creative about finding other ways that maintain.